on?
Yes.
All right, good evening. Good evening. Good afternoon. Good morning, depending on where you're watching from. And let us know where you are watching from, because I'm always curious. It's Saturday in New Orleans, a bit grey outside, rainy, respite from the hot weather, which is rather nice. And there's a hurricane taking shape in the Gulf of Mexico, a tropical storm, which looks like it's headed straight for us, which is not good. So everyone here is a little bit curious to see how that pans out over the next few days.
Used to it, so there's that.
Hoping the storm doesn't turn into a hurricane. And time for a piano lesson for those of you out there who are still digging it. And I thought today a couple of things. Let's just do some more parrot fashion stuff, and let's start with this lick, which is a real handy one for using in the middle of songs. Some people use it at the beginning of songs. More usually it's associated with the very last thing in a blues tune or an R&B tune. And it's the riff that goes like this. Like I say, some songs start with a Blue Monday. Well, Blue Monday, I hate Blue Monday. And more often than not, you'll find it in the middle of songs, at the end of a 12-bar phrase or an 8-bar phrase. And we're playing in C. By now, if you've been following these lessons, you should pretty much be able to put your hand on a C chord straight away. There's C, there's C, there's C, there's C. There's the note of C. C in octaves on the left hand, nice lower, big, fat bass. There's C in the first position, C in the second position, C in the third position, add a G on the top, you've got a nice big C chord. And of course you can do the same with F. Different positions, making it into a 4-note chord instead of just a 3-note chord, and doing that in each of the shapes. And then the same thing with G. So C, F and G are the 3 chords that you'll use for most blues tunes and most R&B tunes. Well, R&B gets more complicated in soul music. They start to bring in more sophisticated chords. But the easy blues, the basic blues, comprised really of just those 3 chords. In this case, because we're playing in the key of C, it's C, F and G. If we were playing in the key of G, it would be G, C and D. But we're not going to get there yet, we're in C. So play a C chord. Now play an octave C on the left hand, make it sound nice and strong. Now try playing that an octave lower to make it sound really big. So you're getting squeezing all the juice out of the piano. So now play an octave in your right hand. Usually we play octaves in the left hand because that's where you're playing the bass, and he makes it sound like a big bass machine. But play an octave in your right hand. I'm pulling my fingers out of the way so you can see clearly. Put your fingers back in here. Now we're going to play these 2 notes and this one in the middle. That's a very tough chord. It's because it's leaving this note out. This is the key. This note here is the key to the sensitivity, the emotion of the chord. I always think of that as being a kind of the feminine note, and this is the more masculine note there, a bit more testosterone. That's the combination that you find, when Scottish bagpipers blow their instruments to strike fear into the heart of the enemy. That's the martial chord, really. So we're playing the martial chord, the strong chord. Here it's just 2 C's and a G in the middle. And in the left hand, play the 7th. Now go. Let's try that out. Now play these 2 together. we're going to take this note and this note and drop each of them by a half step. And then we'll do it one more time. And then one more time. And there you have the basic turnaround. And it's very pleasing to the ear because these two notes are not going anywhere. And these move in the same ratio. And there's something about that that's pleasing to the ear. And in doing this, you've found that there's pleasure in this sort of mathematical organization of musical notes where one thing stays the same and these two move at exactly the same pace in relation to each other. And you do get this sense of falling. And because you're going chromatically, one note at a time, your ear knows where the next note is going, or at least it thinks it does, and then gets rewarded when it does. So you're setting up anticipation, and you're feeling a sense of gratification when the note that you're setting up is coming, which is this one really, and then this one. So in the very first chord, you're just playing a chord. And then you're playing this chord where you've established this pattern. And now your mind's going, well, okay, I just heard that. I wonder if they're going to do that same thing again. And you do. And that's rewarding. You say, well, I wonder if they're going to do it again. And they do. Can you do it again? Yes, you can. You can keep going down. And then when you get to the end, this note has to jump a whole note or two half steps. Two half notes to there. Anyway, start here and you've got to phrase it like this. Left hand's going ba, ba, da, ba, da, ba, da. And the right hand's going. Now, if you want to get clever, this finger's not doing anything, it's just hanging around, you might as well put it to use. You can copy what this finger's doing. If you wanted to get really clever, you could go add another note into the picture. Here we go, this one here. And now you have three notes making this parallel movement. But for the purposes of this, just to teach you a good turnaround, let's keep it simple. So here we go. And try practicing that and making it faster. You start doing this, you see, you can start getting a little bit jiggy with it, and that's where like James Booker and Alan and Mac Rebennack. You don't have to worry about that, it takes years. But the first thing you have to understand is the basic outline. different. You can, everybody, you know, all the great piano players, they all have their little ways of doing it, and so there's not one right way of doing it. You might want to add this note here. Might want to add this note. Turnaround in C. So the first thing I was playing when we started was Something You Got. And that's a real, we've touched on this before, but I'm going to show you a new thing in Something You've Got. So it's in the key of C. So let's just play the chords first of all, so you can see it's 3 chords basically. And we can put that turnaround at the end. So something you got, baby, make me work all day. Something you got, make me wanna bring home all my pay. Something you got, baby, it's the 7th note. You ought to know, and I'm gonna show you this. I said, my, oh, I love you so. Let's do it again. Just to illustrate the basic chords. C, work all day. G, it's something you got. G, make me bring home all my C. Something you got. C7th. You ought to know. I said C, C, G, G, C, turn around. So that's a pretty ugly way of playing the basic chords, but that's important that you understand what the basic chords are. And you know, music is like a pencil drawing that's been colored in. You've got to start with the pencil drawing to outline everything, so you can see what your picture represents to you. And once you've got the outlines and the proportions right, in this case to carry the drawing metaphor onto music, the right chords and the number of bars, and then at that point you can start to dress it. And you're using these tricks we've talked about, like okay, so Something You Got. One of the important things about this song, it comes towards the end, and it's really kind of the hook of the, well, it isn't the hook, but the hook is my, oh, I love you so. That's called the hook, the chorus. But the song is full of lots of little hooks, little gimmicks that tickle your ear in a pleasing way and make you want to come back for some more. And in this song, it does a thing which is very hip. And it's kind of a cliche now, but at the time it sounded really new. And it's the part of the song after you've done this bit. Something you got, make me work all day. There's something you got, make me bring home all my pay. Something you got, baby. There's the 7th chord. You want to know, and he goes to F, and he goes. I said, my, oh, I love you so. So let's look at that. It's basically something you got. That's called the 7th. You ought to know. F, E, E flat, D. Make me say my, and then you go back to the end of the song. So let's look at that. So the first part is the setup. C chord, that's classic. A classic way of getting to the 7th chord. Like I said about dressing it up, you could just go something you got and play the 7th. But we've spotted if you're going from here to here, in the middle you could slip this note in. Well, that sounds interesting. And the Beatles famously used it a lot. Something that Nancy knows. And there's millions of examples. Well, I can't forget to see with your face is unique, but I guess that's just the way the story goes. So it's a device that's used in lots of different contexts. In this instance, we're just going to set up the 7th chord. So here's C. Every time I play it, I'm hearing another song. It's that Beatles song, Sometimes. So when I dream, to say. Anyway, so we're back to Something You Got by Chris Kenner, New Orleans Rhythm and Blues in the early 60s with Alan Toussaint. Something you got, you wanna know. F. Alright, let's look at these chords. F. Play F up here. Alright. It's going F, E, E flat, D. And if you're a beginner at the piano, this is going to seem complicated. But what you're doing is playing 4 chords. These are chords. And you're lowering each chord by 1 note. And musicians confuse non-musicians with this because a lot of musicians will say this is called a half note. It's actually called a half step. And this is a whole note. Difference between this note and this note is a whole note. Anyway, we're going down a half note each time. So the first one is F, and what comes before F in the alphabet? E. So this must, if that's F, this must be E. So there's E major. And then the next one is E flat. Well, we're going to flatten this. We drop it by a half step, half tone. You can look at your fingers and just literally, like this next chord, move this one down 1, move this one down 1, move this one down 1, and now we're there. Now, if you're, after a while of being a piano player, you recognize these as shapes. They stop being individual notes, and you're looking at the whole shape, much in the same way as you don't consider the individual letters when you pronounce a word in a sentence, and you don't really much think about the individual words when you conjure up a sentence in speech. And really, when you're speaking, you don't really think in terms of sentences. You're thinking in terms of what it is you want to express, and the other parts of your brain put the sentence together for you, and the sentence is built out of blocks called words, and the words are built out of blocks called letters. And the same thing's going on here. The chord is built out of blocks called notes, and the chord is just like a word in a progression of chords. And anyway, in this instance it's F, just follow me, F, E, then E flat, and then D. Play it again and just try and look at the shapes and try and remember, think of this, I think of this as a flat straight line. And then this next one is a triangle. And then this next one is a triangle that's turned upside down. And then this next one is a triangle, which is the same triangle as this one we played before. It's exactly the same relative position of your fingers, just one whole note apart. F, once again, is the first one. E, E flat, now D. So let's go back to where we were before that, playing a C, play a C in the bass, and then go to this, and then this C7th. Hear how that sounds. It sounds like vinegar. It's got a kind of mauve, purpley colour to it. It's quite a sexy chord. And then F. Then back to C. So, something you got, baby. You all know. It make me say, my, oh, I love you so. So, if you go back over that, you've got the basic building blocks to play Something You Got. You can go on YouTube and listen to Something You Got. There's loads of versions by different people. The original one was by Chris Kenner. Great classic New Orleans rhythm and blues sound from the early 60s. Probably John Boudreau on drums. Probably Frank Fields on bass. Alan Toussaint on piano, who produced the session, but written by Chris Kenner. He made a few records, and his songs were really catchy. Land of a Thousand Dances is one of his. I Like It Like That was another hit for him. But it's a basic song. Like I said, it's got 3 chords, C, F, and G. And then this interesting thing that happened. You ought to know. I said, my, oh, I love you so. Now, as I said, I'm keeping these in their very primitive, most basic, the chords I'm talking about in their most basic shapes. It gets much nicer when you kind of start to beautify the chords and dress them up. And you can recall, it's a C chord, but you don't have to play it like that in its basic form. You can play a C chord like this. And if you play it like that, and you want to do this same phrase we've been talking about, then this activity takes place. Now it's surrounded, it's got a note either side. Well, this, now check this out. In C, we were going to C7th. Okay, remember this is, that's a C chord. We've changed the C to this. It's called a C7th, and it's a note that tells you we're about to go here. When you hear that, you're set up for something. It holds you in suspense until it drops you into place. So that's why it's also called a suspended chord. It's a suspended chord of sorts. Okay, when we do this F part, let's make it more interesting. Instead of just playing a straight F, that's pretty boring. Let's make it an F7th. Doing the same principle. Okay, so now this is an F7th. So we should be able to just do the same thing and dropping these chords down. Instead of just a regular E, make it an E7th. So just drop every note down. And there it is. That's what E7th sounds like. E flat 7th. Down to the D7th. So we've just taken this basic part of the song and made it more beautiful by adding, or actually replacing this note with this note, making it a 7th and giving it that nice sexy kind of sound. Do it with the bass, make the bass sound bigger, dress it up a bit like that. Wow. Make a song out of that. I think somebody already did. Here's another thing you can do. So we've gone from our basic F chord to make it an F7th. And now we're going to keep this finger in the same place. So these other notes are all moving a half step at a time going down. But this one stays the same because it works in all of these chords. So listen to what this sounds like. That's very advanced and very sophisticated. But if you follow the logic through, play this lesson back a couple of times, and you'll see that this is just an example of how you can start off learning the basic thing, and then of your own volition start to experiment with things that actually make it beautiful. And what you're doing here in this part of the song, as we get to the end of the lesson, is playing with something that we started out with. Having some notes moving in ratio to each other, and in so doing, giving the ear a taste of what to expect and then rewarding it when it does happen, but making that even more interesting because in contrast to the moving notes, we have this one that stays in the same place. That's how we started out. That was the turnaround. But in the song of Something You Got, we're also doing something similar here where we're going. Hear that? So let's play the song in basic form. Oh, well, there's something you got, baby. Make me work all day. There's something you got. Make me bring home my pay. Something you got, baby. It's the 7th. You ought to know. It make me say my. So I'm going to play it for you one more time with a bunch of embellishments so you can hear how it sounds when it's beautified with substitutions in the bass. Oh, well, it's something you got, baby. Now keep me home all night. It's something you got. Make the feeling alright. So thank you. Here ends the Saturday piano lesson precisely at 12. I always try to end them precisely at 12:30. So enjoy playing something you got. A lot of stuff to take on board, but a lot of stuff to mess with. And don't worry if you don't get it perfectly right. The point is to find what you can play and then show off to anyone who comes around and says, hey, look what I can do. If that's all it is, that's cool. All right, see you next time. Thank you. Don't forget Venmo, PayPal, carrier pigeons with large sacks of cash attached can be pointed in this direction. If you're a good shot, you can roll all your money into a ball and just hurl it. Or hurl it into the wind and the hurricane will bring it up here. Oh, God, don't even want to think about that. All right. See you next Tuesday. Thank you. Bye. Over and out.
Well, maybe Tuesday unless there's a hurricane.
Unless, I think it's due to hit on Tuesday, isn't it?
I think so.
Okay. If you don't hear from us Tuesday, send out a search party.
Send the Coast Guard.
Yeah, send the Coast Guard. All right. Shouldn't be joking.